Hello and welcome to the Pocket Gamer podcast. It's episode number 526. My name's James Gilmore. Join me, it's a returning champion. It's Rick Cowley.
Returning champion is my new favourite intro.
There you go.
That's brought me such happiness. Hello, hello.
He's been in the wars, as you can see,
Yeah.
if you're watching this, as you can tell from his headphones. He's got the Harry Potter. Did Harry Potter have the little plaster on the glasses?
Yeah.
He did he? Oh, okay,
I
cool.
believe so, yeah.
You're like the AV version of Harry Potter.
Just one too many times of dramatically swipping my headphones off at the end of a long day, and suddenly
Rage quitting.
and then the like connector bit is just snapped in twain. But all the cables are still there. It's a fine set of headphones, and I will not be exchanging them for anything until it properly breaks.
Save the bins, Rick. Save the bins. That's
Exactly.
what you got to do. We all got to do. Hope everybody is feeling well and lovely out there. We have a lovely lineup for you this week. Oh yes, I'm going to dispense with the small talk and go straight into pure gaming action, because we've got the continuation of the Apple versus Epic saga. Stuff has happened, and some of it's even quite interesting. We've got information about a potential Fall Guys game coming to mobile. It's the big thing, and we got to get in on that big thing, haven't we? Slaying real-life Witcher monsters via your phone in the world with AR might be happening quite soon. Plus, a whole bunch of new releases, including the likes of The Last Campfire, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, I say new releases, but you know what I mean, and more. But first, the news. What did I say we were starting with? I've lost the plot. Oh yeah, the Apple stuff. Okay, yeah. So. We know you're sick of hearing about it, and frankly, so are we. But the Apple versus Epic Fortnite fight continues unabated. As it stands at the minute, they've reached a decision, but it's a weird one. And not a final decision, not a solution. Oh no, just a weird holding pattern at the minute for what will happen if you happen to be playing Fortnite on mobile. Because we've got this issue where it's been removed from the App Store, and Apple are saying, no, you cannot be updating your game anymore. So people who've been playing on mobile are like, what happens now when I boot up the app? And the answer is, as we just discussed earlier, it's being split into two.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, all of the consoles and everything else which continue to be updated and get the new content and the new Marvel heroes and the new seasons as normal, over here, i.e. all the people who haven't gotten to a fight with Apple over there. And then over here, we have the Apple mobile version of the game, and presumably the Android one as well, which is the game will continue to work, but you're not getting anything new from this point onwards, right?
Well, that's the thing, actually. So Apple, yes, definitely. On iOS, you will be stuck in, I believe it's Season 2, Part 3 or something. I don't know how Fortnite seasons work. It's very confusing to me. But yes, you'll be stuck on the current season. Nothing's going to change, no new content. That's for certain on iOS.
Okay.
The game has been removed from Google Play, but there's no sort of big fight happening with Google and Epic at the moment. So as far as I'm aware, on Android you will still get the update. And in particular, if you are on Samsung, it's still available on like the Samsung Play Store or whatever it's called.
Their own little, yeah.
Yeah. So that'll still be getting the update as well. So it's specifically iOS that is not getting the update, and will be stuck on the rest of it. And the Epic is basically using that as sort of leverage to get its players to go, oh well, this is all Apple's fault because they won't give us a decent cut on the thing. If they would just lower their prices, we would be able to update the game. If they would just drop all this silliness that we have, started, even though it's entirely Epic's fault.
Yes. Well, certainly the flouting of the laws thing is something they did deliberately, and it's kind of their fault. And we can argue about Apple's legitimacy in what they charge, which is obviously, too much and not very nice. But the way all this has been playing out is just kind of silly and confusing. The other thing, we talked about it last week about how they were trying to file... basically, Apple were trying to keep Epic from their own dev tools on the platform. And Friday, when we recorded the podcast, was the day when the ruling was going to happen, so we didn't know how it was going to play out. Turns out a judge refused to grant that injunction to Apple, which means that at the moment, Epic can still get to all of its dev tools for Unreal, which means that games using Unreal shouldn't be adversely affected, at least for now, But that's all that ruling is something that's kind of like, all right, we're ruling against it for now, but we're addressing this properly on September the 28th. So that's the point at which this could all be overturned again, and they might get, kicked off their dev tool platform. We don't know at this point because it's just going to drag on and on.
I feel like it would be silly for anybody to say, no, you can't access your dev tools, because as has been pointed out quite a few times, like a bunch of people do rely on Unreal for mobile game development and to a lesser extent Mac development and that kind of thing. I imagine, I know a lot of games are still developed in Unity, but Unreal has become like a really viable engine for a lot of developers, particularly on mobile as well. So it is going to affect people, and I think it would be ridiculous if a judge sort of turned around and went, no, actually, all these developers are going to get hurt by this. I just don't know which way it's going to go. Because I've obviously been following this since it started, and I'm like, on the one hand, I can totally see Epic's whole deal of wanting to get a better rate and that kind of thing, and they're sort of pitching themselves as this like knight in shining armor trying to do it for everybody, and they can do that because even if they dropped off of iOS forever, it literally wouldn't hurt them.
Yeah, even with all the money they make, it's kind of a drop in the ocean compared to what they make from the game on all the other platforms.
Exactly. So they make. I believe the estimate is they've made about $1 billion from iOS alone over the last 2 years. And like for Epic, I mean, for anybody, that's a huge amount of money. For Epic, it's not a huge chunk of cash when you consider that they just went out and like raised like $2 billion in a couple of months just by going around saying, hey, we're going to expand our business, please give us money, and is now valued at like 55 billion or something like that. It can make up for the shortfall that will be lost if it goes off iOS quite easily. So I think my personal take on it is Epic doesn't really have a skin in this game, and that's why it can do this, because if it loses out, then it's fine, it'll just move on with its life. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And if it wins, it comes across as this great savior of the App Store kind of thing, and the David taking down Goliath, when it's really Goliath taking down slightly bigger Goliath.
Yes. Very much so. Well, we've talked it out a lot, so it's like we'll leave it there. But we have to keep updating because still one of the biggest games in the world, and it does affect everybody. If you suddenly can't, if you've subscribed to a season or something, the new season, and you want to be able to cross-platform play that stuff, and you can't, that's a kind of a big deal. So yeah. We'll keep you updated. Now, speaking of very big games in the world, Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout. We haven't really talked about it on here because it hasn't been a mobile game. It's been out on PC and Steam and PlayStation 4 and all that business, and it's taken over the world. And for the first time in a while, and I should say I haven't played it yet, but
what?
I really like the look of it. I've watched a bunch of people, the few streamers that I follow, and it's not really like a traditional streamer so much as I watch Limmy, who's a Scottish guy, because I like his comedy, and he's like a 40-something-year-old dude who's just gone onto Twitch, and I like him from years ago and comedy series he's done on Netflix and stuff. But even he's got involved, and so I've seen a bunch of it. Really nice to see something which is kind of a mixture of like an old, like a Nintendo mini game party game bundle, I guess.
Yeah.
Mixed with the Battle Royale thing, but it's like non-violent, but it's still competitive. It's colourful and short, and the idea of every level being different sections. I think it's a great idea. It's a joyful looking thing.
It's absolutely fabulous. I've been playing tons of it.
Okay, good.
I'm really, really, really into Fall Guys, because obviously on PS4 it's free for the next few days. Yeah, if you've got PS Plus, it's part of that, which was a fantastic deal. It's the most downloaded PS Plus game ever.
Really? Wow.
Which I think there's no official figures yet, but I think like Rocket League used to be the previous one.
I was going to say,
and it's now beaten Rocket League for number of downloads. Wow. And on Steam, it's sold 7 million copies.
It's only barely a month or two old.
Yeah, it's less than a month since it came out, and it's 7 million copies on Steam. They've just announced like their season 2 content as well, which looks amazing as part of Gamescom last night. It's a brilliant game, and it is now in fact coming to mobile, which is what you were sort of alluding to.
That's right. So they've revealed that a company called Bilibili, I think is the name of it, they've secured the rights to publish the mobile version of the game in China. So this is the first little inkling we have of it turning up on mobile, and if it's going to China, and if they're doing a mobile port, then I think it's safe to say it's going to come to the West because biggest game in the world and all that.
Not necessarily.
No?
So, it's going to China on mobile because mobile is the biggest platform. Well, yeah, you can't get consoles. But mobile is the biggest platform in China. Like, that's where people play their games. And there's a bit on PC as well, and if it came out on PC on Steam, I'm sure that'll happen at some point too.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to get a game big in China, it's got to go on mobile. But that doesn't necessarily mean it will also come to the West. Like, there are plenty of games in China that are huge, and they just never come to the West because there's no market for them. Because in the West, console gaming is where it's at. And obviously, for us as mobile journalists, that's not ideal. And we know that mobile is a fantastic platform, but the market sort of represents that.
Sure. With this one being a port is what I mean. Like, I'm thinking that because it's been a huge success in the West already, I can see a lot of people being like, can I please have on mobile too?
Yeah, I guess I don't know if it's going to be a direct port. I imagine there will be quite a few changes made to sort of accommodate. See, this is the interesting thing, actually, because obviously, so Mediatonic, who developed it, they've sort of been bubbling under for a while now. They started like 15 years ago making web games. They've done a bunch of mobile stuff. So they're currently doing Yahtzee with Buddies for Scopely and Gears Pop. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Which we all thought was ridiculous, but it's still going after a year, so it's doing something right. Mediatonic has done tons of mobile stuff and knows how to run a mobile game. And I actually did an opinion piece yesterday about this on pocketgamer.biz, that this mobile expertise definitely, if not directly, has helped steer Fall Guys development. Because as you say, it's this bright, colourful thing that appeals to everybody. Yep. It has incredibly short sessions, so you go in and like a full game can last no more than about 15 minutes, and they're actually reducing session times as well in some matches because they're dragging it a bit too long for people. Mm-hmm. It has a free-to-play mechanic inside it because you can buy currency to unlock more things, and it has 2 currencies, which is key to anything. One of which
extremely free to play. The moment you go, hello, where's the purple gems? Show me the purple gems.
In fact, you do get purple gems. That's the currency. It's called kudos, but it's this little purple circle that you.
Well, there you go. Because purple has become the universal symbol of but also in other games like rares and stuff in Destiny. Like purple is the high tier one. Weirdly enough, we've now connected it for some reason.
And there is different tier loots and that kind of thing. So it's got all these little. They're not 100% essential, but it's got all these little mechanics that make you go, "Ooh, I want to buy this because it's legendary. I can get it," and all this kind of stuff.
But they don't affect ability. It's not like a pay-to-win dealio. It's all like cosmetics and little add-on bits that don't affect gameplay. Because everyone is literally just the same. Every character controls the same. It's a completely level playing field.
Yeah.
I thought it would work mobile-wise because, I guess I haven't played it, so maybe I'm wrong. But from what I've seen of it and the way everyone describes it, the controls are very, very simple.
Yeah, so you run and you jump, but there's also... I don't know how grabbing would work, yeah. I guess that's the main sort of tricky bit. And I know from what they're showing of Season 2, there's going to be more grabbing in the future games, particularly like grabbing at ledges. So there's currently only one level in the game where you can really like grab at a ledge and pull yourself up. Mm-hmm. That's basically a hidden mechanic at this point. That's going to become far more prevalent in Season 2. So I'm curious to see how that would work on mobile, because I think that set of movements might be a bit trickier to do.
It sounds like a hold screen to me. It sounds like a tap to jump and then a hold to initiate the grab or something.
And there's a dive button as well, so there's that to throw in. So there's these tiny little things here and there that I think will make it a little bit harder to put on mobile. So I don't think it'll be a direct port, and I definitely don't think it'll have cross-play. I imagine it'll have its own separate thing. But that's just me.
They could do it. If they did it, managed to do it with Fortnite, all the bloody controls in Fortnite.
That's true.
And that's crossplay. Surely they could do it. It's just a jump button for crying out loud.
I guess I'm just thinking personally, would I want to play that if it had all these random little buttons on there? But I'm the kind of person who hates virtual controls. Yeah. So.
Well, I've been chatting to someone online about this via the YouTube comments. Actually, never engaged with the YouTube comments, by the way, kids. Because I said something about the Samurai Jack Battle Through Time game. Because I went hands-on with that. And that game starts off where it's simple and there's only 1 or 2 buttons in the corner. I'm like, oh, nice. And then you keep learning new skills and it keeps introducing new abilities through the first half an hour of the game as a tutorial. And every one of those abilities is another button that gets added to the UI. Dear. And by the end of it, it's just a constellation. It's just like... And I was like, right, okay, here we go. And you can feel through and through that this is a game that was probably designed console first and then we're jamming it onto mobile, and it feels uncomfortable as a result. And that's the case with a lot of games and a lot of ports. Did not that many, they're not like you have to put out the inventory and switch between your weapons, and so it's just like just run, do a jump, do a dive, do a grab.
I think if it's going to be done well, I think there will be some redesign to make it perfect. But yeah, no, I think it will translate pretty easily over. But I think I will probably stick to playing on PS4
you stick to the console
if
version.
I will. The other thing I think that's interesting as well, that I don't know huge amounts about, so we'll just talk about it quickly. But Bilibili, as you say, is the people who've got the publishing rights. Now, Bilibili is not it's not Tencent, it's not NetEase, it's not huge in making games. It is a huge streaming platform in China. Oh, okay. So this is I'm sure they've published games before. I think they handle Fate Grand Order in China and that kind of thing. So this is not completely outside of their wheelhouse. But if they can get Stream integration going directly from the app or something like that, directly onto Bilibili, that'll be huge.
That's interesting.
Because obviously the thing that has really sold Fall Guys is that it's really good for streaming.
Yeah. It's genuinely fun to watch. And for all the reasons you said, the colourful nature, the short burst of it, or the fact that it's going to change genre effectively every kind of minute or so. And some of those sessions are 30-second long, minute-long things. And you're just waiting for... if you get to the front and you're qualifying first, it's over for you quicker than it is for everybody else. So it just makes everything so speedy. And yes, it is nice to see a game which is Battle Royale based, which doesn't involve guns and headshots. And
yes,
it is just nice.
Pure joy and just silliness, and anyone can play it. And people who don't normally play games can play it because it's so easy to pick up. And just and you should play it, James, because it's really, really wonderful.
I should. I don't have the PS Plus subscription thing, and I don't play games on PC really, unless it's VR. So that's why I haven't. But it comes
Fall Guys
to mobile,
VR is definitely the way forward.
That would be terrifying. Especially because the thing that would be terrifying about that in VR, because if you saw it from a first-person perspective, all those other characters would be, in my brain, my height. So they'd be these huge, you'd be standing in amongst this crowd. They're so wide. Just huge, terrifying potato jelly bean creatures.
Well, Fall Guys are canonically 6 foot tall, so...
Oh, well, yeah, God. But, imagine those cold, dead eyes right in my face like that. I'm not sure. It's too much. Anyway, we may get our hands on a mobile version. I reckon it's on the cards, but we'll see. But at the very least, when it pops up in China, I'm sure we'll be able to get hold of some footage and maybe even sneak our way to get hold of a little build, maybe, perhaps. We'll see. We'll see how we go. Other games, console games coming to mobile. Let's stick with it. The Witcher. So we've had a lot of stuff coming in from The Witcher over the past year or two, from the Gwent card game that got ported over eventually to the Witcher, oh God, what's it called? The RPG one with the card battling built into it that came out about a month ago. Something to do with...
Thronebreaker.
There you go, Thronebreaker. So that is an extension of the Gwent thing, but it's actually wrapped in an adventure and looks really pretty, and that's very nice as well. The latest one to come from the franchise is not what you would necessarily expect. They're doing The Witcher Pokemon Go. Kind of. So
pretty much.
Called The Witcher Monster Slayer, and it is an upcoming ARRPG coming to iOS and Android. Now, has anyone really been able to do Pokemon Go other than Pokemon Go? Because we've had a few. We had a Ghostbusters one. We've got a Harry Potter one. And there's actually been lots of other low-key, smaller ones as well. Has anyone been able to smash it? Or have they all just kind of gone, Surely the Harry Potter one, while not being anywhere near as successful, still makes some money? No? Really? Has it tanked that hard?
First of all, I want to laugh about the idea of ARRPG because it sounds like a pirate.
RPG. Yeah. Yes, I'm on board with that. Good. Continue.
No, I think... So, yeah, definitely Pokemon Go has been a huge, huge, huge success. I don't know of any sort of success stories on the same level. So, I do remember that Harry Potter had an initial sort of big intake and then immediately dropped off, and just nobody's really playing it anymore. But Pokemon Go is doing so successfully that Niantic, the developer, doesn't really need to worry about Harry Potter. It can just keep it bubbling along and everything's fine. Yeah, there's a Jurassic World one, I think.
Yes, that's right. Because the
I don't remember
Ghostbusters one just came and went within like a day.
Yeah, I don't remember the Ghostbusters one at all.
Yeah, that happened.
We know that Niantic's working on Catan as an AR game, location-based thing. Yep, Catan World Explorers.
Okay.
Yep, you'll be gathering resources and stuff like that. And there are like other smaller developers who are working on various location-based stuff. But no, nothing's ever really taken off on the same thing as Pokemon Go. And I think there's a few problems with the whole location-based thing. Not least the fact that we can't go outside.
Yeah.
We will actually have an interesting feature about that on PocketGamer.biz next week. Just a quick plug there. We've been doing we've been interviewing a few developers about location-based games and making one in 2020. Please do check that out on Monday. Tuesday.
That's an interesting point.
So you know, there are developers who are making games that are location-based and AR driven and have that whole thing, and they are not massively successful, but they're keeping the developers going,
right.
And they are finding enough success that they are active and still have a community playing them and that kind of thing. Which is one whole other that is success for some people, and that's absolutely fine. I don't think anything's ever going to hit Pokemon Go again because obviously, one, it was so original at the time that nobody else had ever thought of it. Two, it perfectly fit the entire ethos of the entire franchise. And three, it was playable for anybody. It was a children's game pretty much. A family game. Anyone could get into that and start playing Pokemon Go, and you don't require really any other knowledge other than cute creature, throw a ball. Good job.
That is the tutorial. That's the text of the biz.
The Witcher, though, as an AR game, is really... I think it could work. Because what The Witcher is all about is going out into the world and slaying monsters to get coin and just traveling. If you read the books and watch this show and play the game and all that kind of stuff, what it's really about is just this dude sort of aimlessly wandering around the world, trying to find his place, failing miserably, and then killing stuff for money while everybody hates him for doing it.
Yeah, he's a big sellsword. So he's a mercenary guy who just goes from place to place. And that's why the TV series is almost episodic in so much as it jumps around all over the place. And it's like a procedural. Everything is often a new quest and a new thing for him to do. And then does he get paid or not? And then someone sings a song and is annoying in the background. That's how that works.
I think narratively that's going to sort of fit really well with a game because that whole thing of you are now a Witcher well before Geralt ever came around.
And you speak of narrative, it has one. This apparently, rather than it just being random collectathon, so you have to collect all the beasties that are in the Witcher world, by which we mean things like sirens and ghouls and water hags and stuff like that if you've played the Witcher games. But apparently there's a story baked in. So it's all happening in first person perspective. So you'd be holding your phone up and monsters in the trailer, which is just a CGI trailer. It's big monster comes out from behind a tree and goes rawr. But the idea is you'll be embarking on story-driven quests rather than just can you find X of Y and whatever. And that's interesting. They're going to try and spin it into, Witcher, we have heard tell of a beastie located out now. If you go out there and maybe you can do a thing. And apparently, you have to do combat with them rather than just the point in collecting. Now you've got a Pokemon. It's actually right, you've got to do combat with them first person perspective, which means you have to load up with stuff beforehand and equip things and make sure you've got potions and stuff for healing. And I think they're trying to make more of a game out of it. Okay. As opposed to just you're going to collect a bastry of creatures. Interesting.
I think that, I hadn't, to be honest, I hadn't really looked into it. I'd seen some artwork and gone, ooh, Witcher, okay, fair enough. That sounds like a really interesting prospect. I don't know what its long-term and, mass appeal it's going to have.
The mass appeal thing, that's it. Because, on the one hand, it's having a little bit of a moment, beyond the fact that The Witcher 3 was its own moment and got me on board with The Witcher series, and I think it's the best RPG of that generation. In it, for a person who was dying for Mass Effect Andromeda to appear, because Mass Effect is my favourite franchise, and playing the two back-to-back was just, embarrassing as a Mass Effect fan. And, this Witcher thing's incredible, this is rubbish and Mass Effect nonsense. So that was a real sort of reckoning for me in terms of my brand loyalties. But the TV series has been a success, a surprising success, I think, considering it's very difficult to get into, I'd argue, especially if you're not familiar with the series or the game at all. It just doesn't explain anything, doesn't tell you what an Ard is. So suddenly he just starts lobbing a magic thing about and you're like, all right, I mean, I know what that is because I played the game, but everyone else is just like, what's going on? What is this? And Cavill's hot, don't get me wrong, and we can watch it for his rippling pecs and stuff, fantastic. And everyone likes a little bit of hack and slash beasties and stuff. But beyond that, like the what's going on of it all is very like in that first series. But it turned out everybody loved it. Instant second series commission and people going for it. So it's got a bit of a groundswell support from people who maybe haven't played the game, who just like Cavill and watched the series. So
I think what's also interesting is you're kind of, I think that's sort of alluding to like it's having a moment now, and obviously that's sort of built up. So digging back into it, so the developer of this isn't CD Projekt Red, it's Spocko Games, which is a subsidiary of CD Projekt Red set up about 2 years ago as to make mobile games. Okay. This seems to be its first game for CD Projekt Red. So what this probably means is that they've been working on this for the past 2 years. And it's all just happens to be coincidence that it's having its moment now.
Yeah.
And that everybody's super into it. So it's all just kind of paid off really well. And clearly, like, CD Projekt Red is like, oh, we definitely have something good here. Let's invest in the future. I still don't know if location-based gaming is the future, though. I think
no.
I'm like as I sort of mentioned quite a lot at the start. Like, I think nothing else other than Pokemon Go is ever going to hit that same height.
And I think there's still going to be a little bit of a problem where I would argue that the fans of the Witcher audience is slightly older. Not least because it's like an 18 certificate game, but I know obviously kids going to be playing that much younger. But it's a hardcore-ish RPG, and that appeals to a certain fan base. And then obviously you've got the card game side of it as well. I'm not sure what the crossover there is with people who also want to wander around the streets like this with a phone, pretending to catch fake beasties. I mean, that's something that massively appeals to your 8-year-old nephew and your 30-year-old your cousin who grew up with Pokemon as a kid. Yeah. So there is that, cross appeal. The Witcher, I'm not sure has that. I'm not sure the kids are going to be like, the 8-year-olds could be like, woo, the Witcher ARPG. So that's that audience out. And the adults might be a bit like, is this a bit, do I look a bit lame? Maybe I won't do this in public.
I'm not sat here reading The Last Wish and thinking, man, I got to get out there and slay some beasts. Like, I don't know. But it sounds like it could be a really interesting concept, and obviously we can't make any judgments until we play it ourselves. So
no. The future is bright and rosy until it happens and is bad. So until then, we look forward to seeing when it does appear. I don't think we have a release date at the minute. It's just that first trailer that was dropped during the not Gamescom that just happened. So yes, go and have a look at the trailer and get excited or not at your discretion. Let's find out what's out this week, shall we? Okay, cool. Out and about this week, we're going to start with The Last Campfire. So this was a surprise release that came from Hello Games. They of the No Man's Sky, which is kind of nice to see something like this coming from them because this is sort of where they started out, i.e. small, colourful, cartoonish looking indie stuff.
Yeah.
Because they were the Joe Danger lot, which are brilliant games, the motorcycle jumpy stunty games. And No Man's Sky was like quite a radical departure from what we were used to getting from them. And this is just like a little thing that's popped up on Apple Arcade. So it's out there right now. You go grab it if you've got Apple Arcade. It costs you nothing extra. And it's one of them little noodly indie acoustic guitar. We play a mandolin, twinkle twinkle. It's a poor little character lost in a dangerous, fantastical world. It's one of those ones. Which, for the record, I like, but I've recently maybe there's too many of these. But it's been nicely done, I have to say. I know you haven't had a go on it yet, have you?
No. I've seen trailers for it. I think it was like announced during a Nintendo Switch Direct.
Was it?
A few months ago, and then they sort of went, oh, and by the way, it's Apple Arcade and it's out now. Oh, okay, sweet.
Yeah, that's nice.
Please do tell me all about it because it looks really nice and lovely. And as you say, like it's great to see Hello Games like going back to their roots, and hopefully there's more of that to come. But please do tell me.
It's pretty and it's chill, and it's funny because I was playing it, going like the art style reminds me of something, or rather than doing the monochromatic, desaturated indie noodly game, they've gone for the full, bright, primary coloured, sort of round and squishy 3D indie game. And I was like, this reminds me of something. I couldn't think what it was. And then I realised what it was when they told me which one of the developers was working on it, or one of the heads. So, do you remember Lost Winds?
Vaguely,
All
yes.
one word, which was a
Yeah.
side-scrolling platformer where you're jumping around and then using winds to blow you places and stuff like that. Elemental platformer, very pretty, very colourful, very big, soft, squishy. And I was like, it has the same vibe. And it's because the dude responsible for that, or one of the dudes responsible for it, is involved in this. I was like, oh, okay, cool. But this is much more of 3D, third-person perspective, top-down-ish, and characters small on the screen. You're exploring dungeon-y style areas, and it's a tap-to-move and interact style game. So you just tap there, and he path finds the little creature, bimbles along. And they're, like, unidentifiable as to what they actually are. The little creature has got a little blue cloak on and little things, and the 2 dots for eyes is one of those. It's very also Sky, Children of the Light. Looks a bit Sky. Which is no bad thing. They're all very pretty and beautiful. But it is, yes, he's part of a group. He starts out rowing a little boat with a group of them, and then he gets left behind, and now he's alone in the world. And you speak to a guardian of the forest, and they say, you must go and unlock X and Y. But the actual mechanics are you just tap to explore the world, wander around, talk to people who are there. You do get conversation options and things like that popping up, so you can give different responses if you want to. And then you encounter little puzzles where you have to, put things on blocks, and then that'll activate a gate, but if you take it off, the gate closes, so you need to find a way to move them together and do it in the right order. So it's like that puzzle platforming mechanic. But in a very sedate, chill, slow pace, and apparently, because I haven't completed it yet, apparently quite short, nice and short game to play, which had a lot of people going, Thank you for your short game that I can complete while also having a life. That sounds very nice.
So no combat then?
So I haven't got into combat with anyone yet. I think there are beasties which have to be taken out. You do encounter some bosses at some point. There's a big piggy thing that you run into. But I don't think it devolves into hackety-slashety. I think it devolves into using the environment. But I haven't completed it. I haven't got super far. I just played the first 45 minutes, an hour of it. And had a nice time. It feels familiar, but all the production values are great, the music's lovely, the controls work as they should, and having the tap to move on the touchscreen is good, natural, it really works. I didn't find myself overshooting or it not responding or anything. Your mileage will vary depending on how into this kind of chill, sedate, twee-ish experience you can handle. I like it. I think it's nice. It's been done well. And it's on, if you've got the Apple subscription anyway, then give it a go. As with all the Apple Arcade stuff, it's like it's there. You've already paid for it, kind of. Why not? Give it a bash. And yeah, it just made me think, I remember Joe Danger. That was really good. They used to do these little non-controversial things because No Man's Sky was such a kind of poison chalice of a game, which has since gone on to become, broadly accepted and people think it's great again. But after all of that, this is a nice, cute, neat thing. Good for them. So that's currently available. The Last Campfire is the name of that one. Now, this isn't going into your wheelhouse. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered Edition is the full title of this. Out now on iOS and Android for free to start, and then for significant premium to buy. So this is a GameCube game from 2003, right?
That old, good God.
Yes.
I got it when it launched. I remember this coming out. That can't be right. That was 17 years ago.
2003. This is Final Fantasy's return to Nintendo.
I was 10 years old when that game came out originally. That's ridiculous. Wow. Anyway, so yeah, from what I remember, so it's obviously been a very long time since I played it. It's it's a co-op game, and it's all built around you and 3 other people have to traverse a Final Fantasy world. And it's all been poisoned. There's this miasma that rolls in all the time, and the only way to protect yourselves from the miasma is you have this crystal. So it's Crystal Chronicles, and this crystal sort of acts as a circular barrier against all the miasma, and then monsters can come in through that. And so what the actual game boiled down to is you basically had to have one person carrying the crystal to help you move forwards, and then everybody else sort of protecting them using magic and spells and attacks and swords and all that sort of stuff. And it's that sort of four player, almost Diablo Gauntlet. That's the one kind of game. So that brawler style sort of thing, but obviously with all the Final Fantasy charm and everything like that. On GameCube, it had this really weird system where you could only play it. Obviously, you could only play it locally, but you could only play it if you had Game Boy Advances. plugged in.
That's
so you could
right.
I think so you could manage your inventory or something like that.
You had a special connector that you'd put into your Game Boy, and they acted as
you had to buy 3 of those, plus also like have 3 friends with Game Boy Advances, and then one person actually playing the game. And usually I think that one person would end up being the crystal bearer, like whoever's got the GameCube controller.
Yeah.
I never played this with more people than just myself. I only played it solo.
You were the solo
on GameCube.
guy. So I've heard about this, where it's like people, you can technically play it solo, but it's a very different experience.
It's very boring because you just sort of like pick up the crystal, move forwards a bit, drop the crystal, do some fighting, pick up the crystal, move forwards a bit, drop the crystal, and you just keep doing that. Yeah, and I did that alone for maybe like 3 levels. So probably what is now free, I paid 40 quid for and never touched again.
I feel like I kind of want to give you a hug, Rick. That sounds like the loneliest thing.
I lived far away from all of my friends, and I had very few of them to begin with. Anyway.
And there you go. But you raised an important point, which was local co-op. It was a couch co-op game. The idea was everybody playing together and playing the same game at the same time. And of course, how do you do that on mobile? Question is, you don't. So they've ballsed this up, it seems, a little bit. And I'm judging this by the broad reaction I've seen from the community. And I played it a little bit, but like literally, because it's slow going, these games, so I haven't really got anywhere with it. I've been playing for half an hour, it gets you nowhere.
Yeah.
And I didn't play the original, so I don't have any basis for comparison. But what they've done here is, clearly there is no local co-op. So the only way that you can work with people is do it online. Right,
and
so
that's true with consoles as well, which I think is hilarious. Like, even on consoles, no local co-op whatsoever.
Yeah. And it's like, right. Which gives you the feeling that with this one, they may be developed for mobile. Like, they're running the mobile port of it and then pushing that to other consoles. Which Square has done. Like, they've pushed their Final Fantasy remasters from mobile to console. It's clearly you're playing the mobile build, you know? So it's a possibility. But, yeah, online only. And instead of you playing through the entire game, like all of you wandering through the world, doing all the talking, and then going into the dungeon fighty bit, you're not together for the world exploring. You're only together for the dungeon bits.
Oh, dear.
So everybody suddenly pops in to fight them dungeons. Mm-hmm. The next thing is, only the host actually advances their game when you play through a dungeon. So if you do want to do the thing you're supposed to do, which is get you and 3 friends together and you're all going to play through the game and you're all going to complete the game, you all separate for the game bit, you then all get called in for the dungeons, play it through, but only the host's game advances. So you then have to go back and play it through with each of the other 3 people hosting, play through the dungeon 3 more times, then you're all up to date, all your individual games up to date, and then you'll bugger off again, because you can only play the intermediary bits solo.
I did not know that, and that is utterly baffling.
That's way to go, folks.
That's a big no. That's just no. I don't want to be involved in this.
Understandably, this has split reviews somewhat.
Yes.
So there have been some good reviews. There have been some like 8s and stuff, but there have been some 3 out of 10s. There have been some honking reviews of this, and people just going like, "How have you messed this up this badly?" Now, like I say, haven't played it, didn't play the original, don't know. I'm just reporting the reaction here.
I think it's interesting that people like were excited about this as well, because I don't remember it being very good. Now, I as previously stated, played it by myself and had kind of a weak experience in that regard. So I don't know what it's like as a co-op game, but at the same time, it's like it's very odd, again, that they only did the online co-op. I'm speaking more generally because obviously on mobile, online only is really where it's going to be at. But not doing any sort of local co-op is weird. I believe it's also region locked. So you can only play online with people in like Europe or the US. And you can like do random matchmaking, I think, but it is stuck to certain regions.
Yes, and then that enters a new problem, which is you're supposed to be playing it like with your friends as a group playing through, rather than the anonymous kind of rando who's helping you out with the dungeon. Which is fine in lots of games, but that wasn't kind of what this was pitched as, or the point of this game was supposed to be like an RPG campaign. You and your band of adventurers seeing the thing through from end to end. So if you're just pulling in a rando to just help you knock through a dungeon, like trying to defeat a Dark Souls boss, it's a bit like...
It lacks that sort of the same depth and that kind of thing. And I don't know. I just always thought it was kind of a weird game to remaster because, as I said, like it wasn't. I don't remember it being a huge hit on GameCube, to be honest, because it had you had to get 4 people with 3 plug in your GBA converters and all this sort of nonsense. And it was a weird prospect then. It's
strange
still a
turn
weird prospect
for the
now.
series anyway, wasn't it? Because previously, instead of it being a turn-based, RPG, it was this, hackety/slash real-time thing with the 4-way. And it was the first time the franchise came back to Nintendo after the whole Final Fantasy 6 and 7, because they split for 7, didn't they? Because there was that whole thing where they were supposed to be going with Nintendo, or the PlayStation was originally going to be a Nintendo console working with Sony, and then that broke up, and then Sony just did the PlayStation, and Final Fantasy VII was a PlayStation-only thing, and so this was the first time the franchise came back. Now, for the real kicker here, you can play this game for free for the first year of game time. So you play the in-game first year for free. The full game is $24.99.
Oof.
Which is, not unexpected from Square, because they price things pricily. But even for a Square game, which usually come in about, 15 to 18 pounds, that's 25 quid on mobile there for what sounds like a somewhat compromised version of the game. Now, I should say that the rest of it, in terms of the upscaling and, they've polished up the graphics, and it obviously looks slightly different. It looks quite nice, actually. It looks fine. But you lose some of that, like, GameCube, Nintendo blur that that?
I know what you mean, yeah.
That wash that those games had. So it looks sharper, which makes it look slightly odd based on how it was designed for those blurry edge texture things that they used to do over there. And the other thing they've done is, and I have a reaction to this because I've played a lot of Final Fantasy in general, not this one. They've given the Moogles voices.
Oh, God.
English language spoken voice acting.
Oh, no.
They've redone all the voice acting, I should say, but specifically, instead of the Moogles making a Moogle Moogle noise, or, go or whatever they would do, depending on the game that you're playing, version of it, they actually talk. Hi, I am a Moogle, and I have a thick American drawl. And you're like, whoa there, Final Fantasy. I'm prepared to suspend my disbelief for a lot of stuff. Big Shiva popping out the ground there and casting magical ice spells on it. All right, I'll take it. Fine. Floating pumpkin spitting fireballs at me. Yeah, all right, I'll go there. Moogle popping up and sounding like George Clooney.
How's it going, Kupo?
yeah, pretty much.
No.
I've already had some of it, and in the thing, I was like, I do not sign off on this. This is strange. Even for video games, this is silly.
That sounds bad and not enjoyable on so many levels.
They could at least have done the thing that they did with Ni no Kuni and that little bell-nosed character. When they did the English translation, they gave him like a really thick Welsh accent, and it was hilarious and great. So at least give the Moogles some kind of interesting, quirky, tiny, an unusual voice that fits their. No, just sounds like a dude, like an anime VO guy who's just been given the script. He thinks the character's like a 6'5", hench dude. No, it's a little Moogle. So it's a weird one. I've played, from what I've played of it, it all handles fine, but all that stuff with the logging and the way it progresses, I think they appear to have upset a lot of people, and maybe managed to avoid the reason people liked it in the first place, if they did. So, that's out right now. Full title, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered Edition, iOS and Android. Also out, something that we mentioned last week but hadn't appeared, I think it was last week, hadn't actually appeared on the App Store when we were talking about it, is that Game of Thrones game, what's it called? Game of Thrones Tale of Crows appeared. Just got to check and make sure.
Casually check your phone.
Yeah, right. This one's published by Devolver Digital, which gave it a little bit more promise, because I was saying that, basically no Game of Thrones game on mobile has interested me outside of, what's the card game? Reigns. They did that Reigns Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Which was good, but it was just Reigns with Game of Thrones characters. So, any time they've done a standalone Game of Thrones game, it's just been a bit like, when they've plugged it into a pre-existing franchise. I suppose the other examples are the Telltale Games ones that they did, which were fine, but not the best Telltale games either. It's all been this kind of almost HTML5 looking games where you're, controlling an army on a blank screen. And
Going completely off topic, there was a Game of Thrones RPG on like PC and consoles from I think it was Cyanide Studios and Focus Interactive. I actually quite liked that.
It was kind of good crap, wasn't it?
Yes, it was total garbage, but like I really enjoyed it regardless. And for some reason, like George R.R. Martin has a speaking role in it, and they make a joke. They make a joke about him not finishing the books. He's a scholar at a thing somewhere, and someone's like, "Hey, have you finished writing that scroll yet?" He's like, "Oh, I need more time." It's like, ha 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 ha. That game was awful, but I loved every second of it.
Yeah, I played a little bit because my friend had it, so you got to try this. And yeah, it was rubbish. But a lot of people had a very fond reaction to it. They managed to get that sort of really good 6 out of 10 kind of game.
It was pure 6 out of 10. I think I finished it twice. Like I really, really got into it on PC and then Xbox, like 2 different consoles. I was super into it. Anyway, but this one looks really nice. It's this
has promise, right? Like, so I've played, and it plays out slowly because it's one of these games where it's almost like those games that are based around sending text messages to people and then you wait for their replies. Kind of got that going on. But the idea is you've turned up at the, I forget what it's called now, where the crows, the
big wall.
You turn up at the wall, but that keep that they have there. You've rocked up there and it's empty, and the people you're supposed to meet there haven't turned up, and there appear to be tracks leading off on the north side of the wall going up north. And it's like, what's happened? And you've got your band of folks with you. It's about 4 people, who are your commanders and then other all troops. Now, you don't see that. What you see is a little map. You see a kind of isometric cutout bit of the area, the environment you're looking at. And then text pops up from the bottom of the screen. It's like, right, so we've rocked up here. The gates are closed. What do you want to do? And it gives you like 2 options or something, and you choose whether to smash the door in or send someone in to find a hidden exit or entrance. And then you send them on their way, and whatever happens. The next thing reports in. And it's played out like you're a commander and there are reports coming in. So, if I logged in now, it says no new reports I've got on Castle Black at the moment. But if I go to the main map, I can see that I sent a dude off on an expedition, and he's going to go and have a look at the Ulrich Sands area and report back. And I've also sent someone bundling off. He's our leader, Ulrich Sand. I've sent him wandering off to the forests of the north to see what he can find there. And I'm waiting to see what he finds. And you can track his progress on a little map as he moves off. So it's one of those, do a few things, wait for the game to come back to you with a response. And it's clearly designed to play out over a long period of time. So far, the writing's very good. All of the little pop-ups that are appearing and the questions it's asking are quite interesting. And, for example, at the very beginning, they're finding something where you're tunneling through a huge block of ice to get to something. And they're like, do you want to just smash through or do you want to take it slowly? And so I took it slowly, and it's like, okay, cool. And then 5 minutes later, they pop up and say, right, so we smashed through a bunch of it. The ice is turning kind of pinkish. Well, what do you reckon? And you have to be like, crack on or whatever, but be careful. And then gradually it's like, yeah, it's going really quite red now, lads, and we're finding these little bits of something. What do we think about this? And so it's kind of updating you, but it takes a while for it to play out, so you're waiting for responses. And you can get your phone to push notifications, so it's like receiving a text message from the distant medieval past, where someone's about. That's what they do under their cloaks. You didn't see it in the TV series, but they've all got their little. They're all like this when the cameras are off, and they're looking. There we go, just playing their little iPhone games. But it's been done nicely. Like, say, the look is good. The actual writing and the characters talking to you interesting. The decision making does feel consequential. Until I play through again and see if it's really consequential or not. Who knows?
Sure.
But it feels like it. I feel like I'm having to make decisions and going, ooh, I don't know. And in some ways that made me think of the Reigns Game of Thrones version, where you're constantly being faced with a very binary choice, yes or no, with the Reigns. And this has sometimes got more options. But also got a nice interface. So when you select to choose a decision, you put your thumb on the screen and the bar charges up to make sure that you're choosing the right thing to avoid you accidentally hitting the thing you don't mean to. And there is something quite nice about that. Just that second of like going, ooh, do I want to do something? And then doing it and going, ooh, no, actually, no, I changed my mind. There's an element of like, are you committing to this? Are you sure? Are you sure? As the bar goes up. And that's quite nice. It generates a little extra tension, which I approved of.
I'm really interested in this one. I sort of fell out of Game of Thrones pretty quickly because it just sort of dragged into this whole like there's no point in getting invested because everybody dies type of thing. But like I know, so the developer of it is like the lead developer. I believe it's like a team of freelancers that all sort of came together for one guy. But he's based in Sheffield, which is where I'm based.
Hey.
So big ups, the North. But also he made Space Plan. I don't know if you remember that one.
Yeah, I know Space Plan.
So I thought Space Plan is a game that Pocket Gamer really loves, and you in particular.
Yeah.
So it's originally like that was his first game, and then like it's been 3 years since he's really done anything, and then he's come out with this Game of Thrones game, published by Devolver. So it's got Devolver behind it, so they clearly see something worthy. So it has to be good because Devolver, I don't think, has made a terrible game. It's probably not. Probably had a few duds, but never mind. And yeah, like big up the North. So.
Unfortunate time for it to come out, in so much as, had it arrived last year, when people still liked Game of Thrones.
Yeah. That
would have been good. But, it popping up on Apple Arcade is fine. Get involved, as usual, as we just said before. You've got it. If you've got the subscription, you own the game, so give it a go. But no, it doesn't feel like a waste of time, and it gets going very quickly. It's got good onboarding. It doesn't waste your time, and it throws you straight in, and it's very self-explanatory as to what's going on. And I quite like the idea of leading a campaign. It does feel like, with the pauses, this essence of like, right, okay, I'm sending someone off to do a thing, and then I'll hear back in a bit. They'll send a Raven back at some point.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a little while, and that's quite nice. And I do, more than most games, I feel like I kind of want to go back in and check and see how the folks are doing out there in the cold. And yeah, there might be more to this than the other Game of Thrones thing. So
it does sound a lot like what is that one that sort of kickstarted this whole thing? I can't remember what it's called now, but I remember it being brilliant. The idle text adventure one.
Oh, I don't know.
Had an ellipsis at the end. You went into space and your ship crashed, and someone started messaging you.
Oh.
You remember that one?
Yes. Goddamn. I remember. I have a memory of playing it in London for some reason. Like
I have a memory of playing that, and I
Lifeline.
Yes. Lifeline.
Yeah. ...
Yes, because I remember playing that, and like I had this moment where I was playing it, and I convinced the guy. There's a choice where you have to like, should I sleep under the irradiated engine of the ship that might kill me, or should I just take my chances out in the cold? And I was like, dude, take your chances out in the cold. You don't want to get like radiation. That'd be awful. And then 4 a.m, I got a notification on my phone, and it was like a message from this guy going, oh my god, I'm dying. I'm freezing to death. Good night, forever. And he died, and I was there at 4 a.m. like, what? No!
That's quite the wake-up call, isn't it?
So I love those kind of games, and if it's got like a Game of Thrones vibe to it, because I like that. I do like the vibe and the fantasy elements and that kind of stuff, and it sounds, from what you're saying, the writing is really interesting and doing interesting stuff with the world and that kind of thing. So yeah, I'll give
the benefit of this as well is when you're looking at a map on the screen now, and you're seeing like little isolated bits of the Keep of the Wall. It's like if you have even seen some of the TV series, you can see it.
Yeah,
you can actually look at a map, and it serves as visual shorthand for a world that you've seen. I can picture the North, exactly what that is. So that's kind of useful as well. You do feel like you're the commander back at the tent going, right, looking at the table, what do we do about this? And I can envision the rest of the stuff already. So yeah, interesting. I might carry on playing it just for fun. There are other new things that are coming out, but to be honest with you, those were the 3 biggies for the day. The list will be up soon. Dan hasn't compiled his usual sort of top list, but if you want to know the other stuff, because we were already at 50 minutes, go and hit Pocket Gamer. I'm sure the story will be live now as you listen to this. Thank you all for watching and listening as always, and thank you, Rick, for bringing yourself and your beautifully sellotaped headphones to the party.
Thank you. And thank you for having me again. I know it's been a while. I've been busy with other stuff, but I'll be back.
Very busy, yes.
More in the future, I hope.
We've crossed paths. We've been doing our top 50 business, which is basically you doing
pretty much,
a hell of a lot of stuff to get the top 50 developers of 2020 list together.
Yes.
So we'll be revealing that soon. And I did the vids, which was probably took less time than your bit. So I don't envy you. Anyway, we'll have you back. We'll have you back. I'm pointing at the camera, listeners. And also you lovely audio folks. Join us again next week. We'll be doing it once more. Thank you for watching and listening. I'll see you next time.